Hey guys, this is Cousin Vinny coming to you on October the 7th, just before 7 p.m. with a look at the short week ahead of us. Monday, bond markets are closed for the Columbus Day holiday, but the markets are open. But for the most part, it should be a quiet day with no economic or earnings reports in the U.S. Okay. As far as the global economic news, there's nothing out there as well to impact the markets. Tuesday officially starts the beginning of the earnings season with Alcoa reporting, and the major financial banks, center banks, J.P. Morgan, Wells Fargo, etc., I believe, report on Friday. There's a treasury auction, and we have China with some PMI coming out, and also new loan data. So if the new loan data continues to move lower, there's a very good possibility the Chinese government could start their easing as well, to add to what the Fed is doing and the Eurozone. That said, let's look at the ES. We've been in this uptrend for some time now, and channel. We've had these pivots off the top, and depending on if you take the lower channel or these pivots inside here, we made a nice move here as well last week. Okay, we have the fibs here off this level, this low, and this high, where we came down and touched the 50% level here, almost came down to the 618, and now we're rallying. So what I'm looking for right now is a test of this upper channel. The reason why I'm thinking that is because of a report I read over at Shapers Investments, okay, that the short interest had fallen off, as we pointed out before, when we hit this peak and the market was starting to rally. That was a very good possibility these shorts would start to cover, and when that happens, you can see this red line moving lower. Okay, so I'm expecting to see either a move up higher or a move down lower. So I'm looking for this to roll over, along with hedge funds seeing this move continuing higher into and chasing performance into year end leads me to believe that we're going to test this upper trend line. If we look at that fib ratio again, we can see that the 127 is up here at 1489.02, and I believe Delta Strike's looking at 1500. If we take these pivots down here from the lows that we put in June up to this high, the 127 is at 1527.23. Okay. Another few things to look at from Bespoke Investment Group is the number of the bullish sentiment that has dropped from 36.1% down to 33.86% in the last week. That's from the American Association of Individual Investors. So this implies while the market keeps rallying, the little guy is starting to ring the register. Okay, so keep an eye on that. Also keep an eye on the stocks on this list. Go to bespokeinvest.com and you can see this list of stocks and what their typical average changes on report day. Okay, if you want to play some option strategies, I would suggest perhaps strangles or straddles if you don't know which direction these will go. So I'll be watching for the 127 extension at 1490. If we manage to make above this high that we put in the beginning of September, and if we make it through the 127, the 618 is definitely in the cards at 1500 level. So I think Monday, Tuesday is going to be a little slow. Tuesday might be better with Alcoa starting earnings. Actually, Alcoa's chart looks pretty decent. Okay, notice that this was a decent short once we lost the 50 period, the blue line here. Every time we tested it, we moved lower. Okay, we came back, we tested it again, moved lower. Now we break above it in August, came back and bounced off of it with oversold stochastics in late August, early September, moved above the 200, and now we come back down and tested the 50 period with stochastics oversold. So do we rally the next couple of days into earnings? We'll see. As far as XLF and the other money center banks, Wells Fargo, we're at highs. Okay, so we'll take this over here. You can see we broke above the March-April highs, poked above it, came back down to the 20 period, moving higher. Stochastics is still oversold, moving through the 50 period. We're at 63.76. MACD's crossing over, so it's looking like we could continue. Nice cup and handle pattern. And now I would look for this to break out. Let's look at WFC, one of my favorite banks. We're testing that high as you would expect. Also JP Morgan. We have a ways to go here for JP. Alright, we're breaking above that level, so I'd be looking for these highs up here, as well as this high that we put in April for the next target. Okay, so Fridays, you could play this into Friday if we could get a good trade on Monday. If we bring back down to the 20 period and the 10 period, you could get a nice bounce there. TLT, the 20 period, we had this descending channel wedge pattern that we pointed out last week that we were bumping up against. We had the Kumo as resistance, and that became resistance again this week past, where Thursday and Friday we saw this move lower. So what I'm looking for is this a possibility of a right shoulder here? We have pretty high volume. If it's not a right shoulder, okay, and it moves down below this left shoulder, doesn't mean we can't bounce before we get down to this head, but I'd be looking for that. Right now I'm thinking there's a possibility of a target down here. Let's look at the EMAs. We're right at the 200 period, this white line here. Alright, so did we lose that? We're overbought, so it's a very good possibility. The MACD is turning over as well on TLT. We need to keep an eye on the US dollar as well. Notice that at this level here, the 79.73 met with a lot of resistance. We had the descending 20 period that we're up against as well on Friday. That is doji. And right now we're currently trading at 79.50, okay, on the Globex. A nice rounded pattern, possibility of a bear flag here. So keep an eye on that on the US dollar. Lower obviously is good for equities, crude oil and such. Okay, crude oil should continue to rally if this dollar continues to move lower. Also keep an eye on gold and silver. GLD is a bit overbought, and we're cruising above at Tenkan-sen, so keep an eye on gold. SLV looks pretty much the same, and we're overbought, and we're at this high again, and stochastics is at a lower level, so you can look at that, keep an eye on it. And you also want to keep an eye on DBV, the PowerShares Currency Harvest Fund, which if it moves higher it's good for equities, it moves lower it's bad for equities. It's basically the carry trade. Okay, notice that we're getting oversold, so there's a possibility that we test this 200 period or just this lower Bollinger Band and bounce here. Okay, a couple of charts to look at for the week ahead. Some trades that were pointed out on the Twitter feed as well. Keep an eye on Tractor Supply. We're above a Kirby level. We have a nice cup with handle. Alright, stochastics looks like we could move higher, and remember we could get overbought, and MACD could signal that we get embedded here like we did here, where we stayed embedded. Watch your MACD. In this case it looks like we're breaking out on Friday. I'd like to see what happens with this candle where the bears tried to move this back, but we did close higher. Okay, so that's Tractor Supply. Some of the defense names, Northrop Grumman. Keep an eye on this level here. Okay, we're above well, we'll be at almost at 52-week highs if we get above this level here. But we're overbought, so keep an eye on that one. Some of the transportation stocks, Kansas City Southern Railroad. Notice that we came down to the lower Bollinger Band, the 300 period, and the 200 period. Excuse me, the 150. We're oversold, turning, and MACD looks like it's turning as well. So we're looking to see if we get back above the 50 period and then launch to the 20. Alright, we had a nice 3-candle reversal here, a low, a lower low, and then a change of trend on this candle, and we're continuing to move higher. Some stocks that are breaking down through their 200 period. Baker Hughes broke down through it at the end of August, beginning of September, rallied back up, and now we're breaking down again. We're oversold, MACD is pointing down. Keep an eye on the Kumo. If we break down through the Kumo here, it could be a signal that the 200 has been lost, and these Bollinger Bands could open up, and we could see a move down. First target being this gap fill, and then of course the lows that we put in July, June, July 2012 at 38. Caterpillar's another one, oversold. MACD is cruising sideways. We're flirting with the 50 period. We keep losing it and rallying back. We'll see what happens if this lower low, higher low situation continues, or do we break down? Ascending channels tend to break to the downside, so keep that in mind as well. Okay. Watch this 200 period. Do we rally back up to the 200 period and then move down? That's something to look at going into the week and earnings season. The home builders, remember we looked at these last week. DHI came down to the 20 period, rallied up. We had a nice move here. A buck we got off of this one on oversold condition. HOV we didn't trade, but we did make higher lows, okay, from this oversold condition, and you had a nice 25 to 50 cent move off of those lows that we pointed out. KBH, we were looking for this to come down to the 20 period. We never got there. We held the 10 period. Stochastics was moving lower and turned on Monday, Tuesday, and we got a nice move there as well, a buck and change. Lennar was a big winner. We had a nice move off the 35 area, the 20 period, and we rallied up a good $3 there. It'll be interesting to see what we do with this high up here. Okay, with stochastics approaching overbought, but MACD could turn higher as well. PHM is another one that we pointed out. All these builders set up and were ready to rally on Monday. We pointed out on Sunday night with the post to Day Trader Bootcamp, and we had a nice move here on PHM. Pulte Homes. Toll was the first one that we looked at with the possibility of rallying. Okay, we saw this move here, and the move down to the 50 period was what we were looking for, which is almost what we got. With stochastics oversold, we had a nice rally here. And to summarize, keep an eye on GTO's bond stock ratio, okay, which looks like it wants to move lower. Okay, well, we're getting at extremes here. We'll have him explain exactly what this chart means, but moving lower is good for equities. Okay, but we are reaching an extreme level here. Okay, so those are my targets for the week. Keep an eye on the ES. Remember, we bounced at the 50%. We have the 100% up here at 1467, where we hit that high the beginning of September. And we're looking at these 127 extension, 1618 extension for targets this week. We could also roll over conceivably here and break down through this trend line, so that's a possibility too on any bad news coming out of the Eurozone, Greece, Spain, and so forth. Any surprises? Being so close to the election, things tend to happen during this time period that are out of the ordinary. All right. I hope this helps. We'll talk to you soon. Remember, these are your stops, and we'll see you in the daytraderbootcamp.com chat room.